coming up next.
All of the great leaders, thought leaders, authors, bestsellers, and all that in that box, I realized that they were all basically trying to tell me to do one thing, or trying to tell us all to do one thing. And
Yes.
that's essentially just to love life. Life is meant to be loved. They all had their thought processing, their perspectives, their systems, their tools, their strategies, their ideas on how to do it. But mind mapping got me to see that what connected them all was that one point, is that they wanted us to live the best quality life possible. In order to do that, all of them talked about the importance of getting clear on our identity and who we are. How it's impossible for us to truly love life if we don't are clear with who we are to love life.
Welcome to Faith Over Addiction podcast, where the chains of fixing and striving are broken and joy is rediscovered in Christ. You're here because you know there's more for you, a life beyond addiction's chaos, rooted in God's peace and promises. This is the place where Christian women like you learn to release the weight of fixing and striving and instead lean into God's strength to create a home filled with love, grace, and hope. She is clothed with strength and dignity. Proverbs 31:25. That's you. You may not feel like it yet, but you are stronger than you know. And God has so much more for you than carrying someone else's addiction. Here, we'll uncover how to set healthy boundaries with love and a little humor. Find resilience and grace in the messy moments of life. Celebrate small victories and embrace joy like never before. Lean into God's promises for restoration and strength, because He's not done with your story or your loved ones. This is your invitation to rise up, embrace your worth in God's kingdom, and take back what's been stolen by addiction: your peace, your joy, your future. Your faith is the foundation, and your boundaries are the bridge, and God's truth is your guide. I'm Tanya Joya, your host and fellow traveler on this journey through the chaos of addiction. I'm here to cheer you on, equip you with tools that work, and share the truth that's changed my life. The joy of the Lord is your strength. Nehemiah 8:10. Together, we'll uncover how to create safe, loving space for healing, starting with your own heart and home. By setting boundaries, trusting God's plan, and embracing His truth, you can reclaim your joy, your peace, and your family's future. Then you will be able to stand firm for your family and legacy as a kingdom daughter, a woman who can laugh at the days to come, knowing her identity is secure in Christ. So grab a cup of coffee or tea and get comfortable. Let's walk this journey together. We're about to take back what's been stolen, create a safe, healing space for you and your family, and rediscover the joy God has waiting for you. Welcome, Faith Over Addiction. I am excited today because one of the tools that I've been using probably for 25, 30 years is mind mapping, especially when I feel really stuck and I don't know my own mind. So I know those of us who struggle with loving someone who is deep in the throes of addiction, sometimes we don't know our own mind. So I brought in an expert, John Diggs. He's going to talk to us about his story and his identity, and then leave us with some tools that you can implement today. So John, tell us some more about you and how you got to where you are.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Tanya. This is awesome to be here. Just a little bit about myself. Yeah, I was born and raised in Los Angeles, California. Fell in love with football at an early age. That love and passion led to an athletic scholarship at Washington State University, where I played football for the Cougs, go Cougs, and played several years in the NFL before I was forced to retire due to the reconstruction of my right knee. When I was 25 years old, I got 2 screws in my knee that ended that career, which was a challenge, to basically to kind of divorce and leave your first love, and, having forged identity as a football player and receiving so many accolades and attention because of by way of football, with that being gone, was a challenge in and of itself. But luckily, I was blessed to get my California real estate license while I was playing football. So I kind of had like a plan B, if you will. So I got into the mortgage industry in Southern California and went on to build one of the top mortgage brokerages in all of Southern California, where I actually was making more money as a mortgage man than I ever did as a professional football
Oh,
player.
kidding. All right.
Yeah,
Oh,
was living this millionaire lifestyle, had it all with the big houses, cars, even was in the process of buying a helicopter at one point. I mean, life was truly abundant for me. Then the early 2000s, then I was blindsided with a severe body blow with the mortgage meltdown of 2007 that led to the Great Recession of 2008, and I literally lost everything. I mean, when I say everything, I'm talking about capital, everything in bold font and everything. I mean, houses, cars, careers, even lost my family in that process. And it was in less than a year. I mean, I went from all of this abundance to just, I mean, my life was gone, gone. Everything that I'd known and loved and again identified myself with was no longer. And basically, I was forced to have to move into my mother's house.
oh
Uh,
my.
yeah, and sleep on the couch that I bought her. And by the way, this was I did a more of a robust, in-depth story telling of this in a TEDx talk that I did a couple years ago. So if anybody really want to know the profound impact of this transition, it's all in my TEDx talk on YouTube. But when I moved to my mom's house, all I took with me was my bike, a gym bag, and a big box that was full of motivational tapes and CDs.
Mm.
I knew I had to go back into that box, and reread Think and Grow Rich, How to Influence Friends, and Unlimited Power. Knew I had to go back in there. So as I started going back through that box, there was this one book in there called the Mind Map book by Tony Buzan, and
Mm.
I don't remember ever buying it myself, but it resonated with me at this particular time. So I decided to read it, which led to me making one of the most powerful decisions I ever made in my life. And that was to mind map the contents of that box. So I spent 3, 4 months literally mind mapping books like Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, The Power Now, all of the big self-help books. I spent every day, all day for 3.5 months mind mapping those books.
Can
And
I back you up and
yeah,
have you explain the concept of mind mapping? So, for people who are not familiar, how do you simply explain that?
simply a mind map, I call it, as a visual information management tool. Essentially, it takes whatever you have to think about or whatever you're thinking about and literally puts it in a map like form for you to actually see what it is you're thinking about. And that was my first introduction to it, because as I was going through those books, I was literally putting the title of the book in the middle, chapters around it. And with mind maps, what makes it powerful is that you use keywords and short phrases. They're not paragraphs, long things. They're just keywords, short phrases, images, pictures, symbols are all on mind maps. And when I was going through those books, mind mapping those books to try to reset my life and rebuild my life, that was my first real introduction to the power of mind mapping, because I started doing what is called active learning, which is what mind mapping stimulates. Is because instead of just passively reading the information and maybe underlining a paragraph here or two or highlighting something, I was actively engaged with the material because I was trying to find keywords that would represent paragraphs and chapters to add to my mind map, which caused me to have what is known as meaningful learning with the material. So I really started to understand that, and I walked away with two key components, two key elements after that 3 months of that process that I would like to share. And that's one, that all of the great leaders, thought leaders, authors, bestsellers, and all that in that box, I realized that they were all basically trying to tell me to do one thing, or trying to tell us all to do one thing. And
Yes.
that's essentially just to love life. Life is meant to be loved. They all had their thought processing, their perspectives, their systems, their tools, their strategies, their ideas on how to do it. But mind mapping got me to see that what connected them all was that one point, is that they wanted us to live the best quality life possible. So I got that clear. Then the second thing I got clear was that in order to do that, all of them talked about the importance of getting clear on our identity and who we are. How it's impossible for us to truly love life if we don't are clear with who we are to love life. What do we want to, who do we need to be, what do we want to do, and what do we want to have to love life? So that began my I am mind map, which is what I started creating as a mind map to start to get clear on who I am, what is my identity.
Now, let me bring you. So, a lot of my audience are women,
Mm-hmm.
and their focus, instead of who I am, is how am I affecting this relationship? And you were at the probably, I won't speak for you, but I'm going to guess the lowest point of your life. You're
Yes.
sleeping on your mom's couch that you bought her. Family relationships have broken down. A lot of men and women too value themselves based on the work that they do. When you are looking at all of that, how did you decide I don't need to fix the other person, I need to fix me? That's where my audience often is if they could just stop, if this could change, then the mortgage will get paid, the kids will be fine, everything will be all right.
Mm-hmm.
What I have found through 15 years of research is that's not true.
Right.
Even if that does stop, that does not necessarily mean I will be okay. So, how did you come to this I am identity piece over trying to fix the outside world?
The realization, great question. The realization that the outside world is based on my perception of that outside world. I had so to who I am will determine that outside world. How I perceive it, how I relate to it, how I respond to various stimulation outside of me will all be dictated on who I'm being and how.
Even though I'm going to press you just a little bit, you
Mhm.
had no responsibility for the recession in '08. It happened to take
Mhm.
your livelihood.
Right.
So, what kept you from going, all right, I'm just totally goofed and life will never be the same, and I'm going to sit on this couch and have a pity party? Because I get what you're saying, that how
Right.
we see it is really how it is for us. But what kept you from just saying, I can't see it any different? The world just gave me a really
Well,
bad hand.
the complete understanding that the one thing in life that is constant is change. There's nothing that stays the same. Everything can change, everything will change. Even if you sit on your couch, you are still changing. And so once I got clear that everything can and will change, then I got empowered with the understanding by way of mind mapping all of that stuff that I'm in control of that change.
Hmm.
That everything is going to change regardless. People change, circumstances changes, life changes. That we can't, that's life. But what I can do is control a change by how I'm perceiving it and who I'm being in response to that change or dealing with that change. That became clear with me after I lost my football career. That was a very challenging part that I didn't have any tools to basically sort through. But I realized, as a football player as a whole, you can make a mistake in a game, in the first quarter, and feel like bad, but then knowing that you still got other opportunities through the rest of the game to make a big play to erase that bad play that you may have made in the first quarter. So I took literally that understanding in my life that just because the circumstances are bad now doesn't mean that something can't happen in this circumstance that can't make it better tomorrow. I've seen it, I read it. I mean, most of all of your thought leaders and great authors always talk about a story when their life was bad, then all of a sudden something shifted in them that made it great. And now they're writing a book to talk about it. So most of them always had
Yes.
a story. So I believe that things can change. Nothing's permanent.
I think it's the feeling of being out of control in that I need them to change. Like if
Right.
you could have change the circumstances of your knee, change the circumstances of the crash, all those types of
Right.
things to focus where I see my women getting stuck is I can't move forward until they do. So
Right.
how did you overcome that? How did you move yourself forward without requiring your family come back or the recession not happen or
It, it was the clarity, in that mind mapping process. Again, I got clear with so many things, but the one thing that I did get clear with is also that I remember Tony Robbins saying that when something occurs in someone's life, a tragedy, a loss, some kind of significant negative impact in somebody's life, as time goes by, eventually we get over it, or it doesn't have that same kind of intensity as it did when it first happened.
Mhm.
And that's what normally happens with folks. And Tony's point was saying that the only thing that really changed in that process of you getting over something is that you shifted your perspective on how you viewed it.
There you go.
That circumstance, an event, still happened. That person died, that person didn't treat you right, betrayed you, hurt you in some kind of way. That still happened. And as time you got over it, and the only thing that took so, that you really happened in between that time of it happening and you getting over it is that you eventually just changed how you viewed it. So Tony's point is, why take so long to shift how you view it?
Mm-hmm.
When all right, it happened, what are the other things that, how else can I look at this circumstance? What else could it mean by this behavior? What else can I make it mean for this behavior? How can I maybe adjust myself that it doesn't have that same negative impact in my life? And that's why I think we're blessed as human beings, as one of the I think the only living being that God created us with, it was with the conscious choice to make decisions on what we think about and how we perceive stuff. And so I just encourage people to just be open to the possibility of looking at things differently, and versus just insisting that their behaviors is one way, or this event happened, so it must mean this. It could mean something else too, and it could be other reason, could be divine guidance, who knows what it is. But as long as you're open to the possibility that there is nuance to what you're making it mean, I think it lessens the intensity of that you have to be, you have to behave this way, or I'm right, you're wrong with how you're functioning. I hope that helps.
How did you take the maps and rebuild the identity? I mean, you'd rebuilt your identity once because, like you said, your first love was
Right.
football. You would have played forever if you could have. It just wasn't
Mhm.
happening. So you've rebuilt an identity. That one crashed. Now, how are you rebuilding yourself now?
This one, when I got clear that again the purpose of life was to love it, and that I was the one responsible for loving it, determining what love and life means to me, then I realized I needed to get clear on what's most important to me in my life. Despite all of the stuff that's happening externally, what truly do I want in my life? So I started asking myself some very important, thought-provoking questions. And as far as what's truly important to me, then I had a mind map, and I said, what's most important to me than anything is my health. There's nothing more important than health. Then I said, what else? Then I evolved to wealth. I definitely want an abundance of things. Then I kept thinking. I said, success. I want success. Then I definitely want to be happy. So after hours and 3, 4 months of really mentally grappling, what's truly at my core, not my title, not who I am, but what's really at my core that resonates with me, that I know that I need to align myself with to love and live my best life. I landed on I need to be healthy, wealthy, successful, and happy. So that's what I put on my initial mind map. And as with mind mapping, for those who aren't familiar with mind mapping will allow you to brainstorm and go down a wormhole, if you will, on any specific topic that you want to think about. So I started doing that as it related to health. You know, what did health mean to me? That's so broad in general. Then I landed on spiritual health, mental health, physical health. Then I said, what does wealth mean to me? You know, that's so general. Then I landed on one of the abundance of positive emotions, specialized knowledge, and freedom. Then when I looked at success, I was like, well, what does success mean? What do I want to have success in? And I said, I want to have successful relationships, results, and rewards. Then I looked at happiness. I said, what does happiness mean? And I said, I want to feel blessed. I want to feel grateful and fulfilled. Then as I started, evolving all of that, it really changed my being. That it changed my being in that I was resonating and feeling like more in alignment with who I am. So those external circumstances of me still sleeping on my mom's couch and not having my family, my three young daughters lived in a whole nother state. I was jaded. I was yeah, I was gone. But when I started doing this I am process, those things didn't really have the same intensity because I was more internal, and I was doing more of this internal development involvement, and it started feeling good because I started connecting with, wow, this is resonating with me to wake up and feel healthy, wealthy, successful, and happy. And as I started saying these mantras and started saying these affirmations around health, wealth, success, and happiness, I started realizing that the circumstances that was once had such a strong negative impact started to dissipate. It wasn't as intense what it was anymore. And I know it was because of that process that I ended up within 8 months from moving into my mom's, mind mapping those boxes for 3, 4 months, creating my own I am mind map for 3, 4 months, that I went and landed a solid 6-figure salary job. So I transformed my life in less than 8 months. And I know it was because of that mind mapping process to really get clear on my identity that allowed me to shift my external circumstances.
So you're transferring this relationship with yourself of who you are, how you see yourself. You've gotten to your core values.
Mm-hmm.
You land the six-figure job. What about your personal relationships? What shifted when you shifted?
How I perceive them, realizing that just like I have conscious choice on how I want to love and live my best life, so do they. They're blessed with that same power that I have on how they want to choose to love and live their lives. Whether it's something I approve with or not, that's their God-given right to live their life the way they choose to live their life. I can offer some help and assistance, but that intensity around making them wrong for how they're choosing to live their life was no longer the case for me. It was like almost, I love you. What I'm doing in my personal journey on how I want to love and live my life is feeling so good right now. And I feel like I'm on my divine mission. I'm really in alignment with my higher power. On my higher power approves this connection that I'm evolving with myself to be my best life, that some sense I don't really have a lot of capacity to deal with that anymore. That negativity that you may be bringing, or that experience. And I love you, but I have clear boundaries now on how to protect my
Mm,
peace. I have
mm-hmm.
because I've got so much clarity on who I am and what I want my life to be about, that it's easier for me to stand in my power politely, lovingly, and not allow certain circumstances outside of me to affect me like it did. And it altered my relationship because I think a lot of people felt that he's different.
Were you able to be more supportive? Were you able to connect more? What shifted when you set healthy boundaries?
I was more supportive and loving without the expectation. Meaning I love them.
Amen.
Yeah, I love you. I care for you. I'm rooting for you. I want your happiness, but I am no longer committed that are vexating, expecting you to behave how I see you should be. And that released me. So that was so, there's a story I can share really quick if I can. One of my mentors, Dr. Ron Holman, he used to own the largest privately owned mental health insurance company in the country. And I was studying neurolinguistic programming in the early 2000s, and he invited me over and we started talking. And one question he asked me when I first met him for 15 minutes was, "Who are you? Who are you? Who are you? Who are you?" I mean, that's all he was asking me. Is that all? Who are you? Who are you? I mean, I was running out of things to say, but he was very, I didn't know what else to say, but he was getting me to realize that I'm much more than I initially perceived myself to be, and that I can essentially be whoever I want to be. Then I remember
Mm,
he had asked me a question. He said, "John, do you realize that everyone who's alive, who's ever lived, had a different perception of reality?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, I can see that." He said, "Siamese twins, it doesn't matter. Everybody has a different perception of reality." And I was like, "I get that." And he said, "Well, how many people's on the planet?" I was like, "Well, 7, 8 billion." And I just never forget it, Tanya. He just rattled down like, yeah, 7.9345 or something. He just labeled it up.
exact numbers. Yeah.
Yeah, so he said, so that means that there's close to 8 billion different perceptions of reality. Do you understand that? And I was like, well, yeah. And he said, in that case, then how can anyone have the audacity to argue that their one perception is the right one? And that really was an aha moment for me to really respect other people's perceptions and how they're choosing to live their lives, to where I just no longer get so caught up in what other people are doing. Now if they're harming somebody else or doing disservice to other people, yeah, I got a problem with it. But if they're internally doing something and they want to choose to live their life, and however, as long as they're not hurting anybody else's life experience, man, you love your life, and that's just what helps me a lot. And I hope that story kind of helps other people understand that, people are people.
What you're doing is you're flipping it on the idea that when he asks this question of you, who are you? You would have to know your values to be able to say, I am this person. I mean, I would say most people listening to this could probably say, I'm not a bank robber, I'm not a murderer, I don't steal things. Those we've claimed that as our identity. There's no reason for us to claim that other than that's a value that we hold, and we've
Mhm.
chosen often that the consequences are too high, or
Right.
that that's so outside of our understanding of who we are, we're not going to do that. So that he flipped it on his head and said, look, you've got to come to your values first before you can hold your perspective. It
Yep.
sounds like that's what you're doing with your mind mapping. So, how
Exactly.
do you help people come to that identity place for themselves when they've been more concerned about living somebody else's life than their own life?
Right. I just start asking them questions, in my books and my online courses and my one-on-one coaching and workshops and keynotes and stuff that I do specifically around this I am stuff. I just have them literally grab a piece of paper, put I am in the middle, and we just start asking thought-provoking questions as it relates to your health, wealth, success, and happiness. And it's been amazing, Tanya, on just walking people through this process, that when they actually can see their lives, most people that I've known has never really went through and actually can see their identity. They may think they know who they are based on their title or their job position or mom, dad, or whatever, but to actually see their life in a mind map form, and these are truly my core values and my beliefs, and these are truly what's important to me. It's empowering and it's illuminating to so many people, like, wow, this is, what, I'm strong here in my health, but I'm terrible in this area. I'm here, there, and there. So when people start to really kind of resonate with this, and it becomes a fun kind of experience, because you're like, wow, I never really thought about myself in these kind of ways or see myself in this kind of context, that I've been finding with some students that I've been working with lately that having challenge with their parents. One that I think of, a parent is trying to vicariously live through his son, so he's really riding him super hard. And as I'm starting to get his son really clear with who he is, and that his son is really finding it empowering to be a certain way, to respond to his father in a more positive way, that's getting his father to shift, just by who
Mm.
he's being. He's
Hmm.
being different. So he's not responding the same way. So his dad is kind of having to shift his approach, and the way his son is responding from a place of clarity on who he is, his father is starting to kind of respect his son for being his own person now. Because
Hmm.
with the clarity of that his son has as being clear on who he is, he's now able to articulate certain things about who he is and what he wants to do with his life in a more congruent, I guess you can say, a more congruent, a more in alignment with his purpose way, that his father is now pausing, and it's altering that relationship by who he's being. Does that make sense?
And you're giving, if I'm hearing it correctly, you're giving dad the choice. Dad can continue to try and live vicariously through son, which is going to cause probably upset and division, and would have with or without the mind map. Eventually, son
Right.
will rebel. Or father can say, "Oh, if you're really laying out who you are, maybe it's time for me to mature enough and lay out who I am." It's so interesting with kids how they teach
Mm-hmm.
you and you teach
Mm-hmm.
them. I
Mm-hmm.
love what you're talking about of he's doing it in a positive framework. He's not doing it in rebellion. He's not doing it in breaking down the relationship. He's saying, "This is who I am,
Mm-hmm.
and I act in alignment with that." So
Yeah.
oftentimes people say to me, "Well, if the person with the addiction would just change, then everything would be okay," not realizing how much they have bought into the addiction themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the reverse of what you're talking about. We think one person, even with all of our information, we think one person is not able to change a whole family dynamic. But if
Mm-hmm.
you look at it in reverse, the person with the addiction did change the whole
Yeah.
family dynamic.
Did.
So, if I'm hearing you correctly with the I am map, as you begin to get solid on who you are, you also have the opportunity to change the whole family dynamic like you did and say,
Absolutely.
okay, I've come into myself. Correct
Mm-hmm.
me if I'm wrong. I've come into myself. I know where my values are. I
Mm-hmm.
can be present for you in a way that I wasn't when I was
Before.
trying to live your life.
Yeah, when I was trying to blame you for circumstances, I'm gonna support you and love you from a way of a person that is connected to my higher power. God is in me. I've done so much work on my I am mind map and meditated, prayed on it, visualized it, that I am congruent, that my higher power is in full support of who I am and who I'm intending to be, that I'm gonna take a stand for you in this circumstance. And I want you to know that. In fact, which I told my student to share with his father, let me show you my I am mind map. And I've seen a lot of people do that with challenged relationships. Let me just show you this process on how I'm identifying myself, so you can get a better understanding on who I am, and who I'm intending to be. And that would normally take the conversation into a whole nother way. Hey, I didn't know that was important to you. Hey, I didn't know this and that and the other. And now all of a sudden you're getting a tool that can be some collaborative effort of both of you guys building your I am mind map, to see where on these mind maps there's some synergy, where there's some, maybe some lack of attention and focus, or even think about some activities that can be done for you guys to share, because there's obviously love there, in
Hmm.
those relationships, why that person, feels so hurt by that other person's behavior. And this is just a way that you can say, hey, let's really get clear on who we are, and so we can try to find some commonality and grow from a place of understanding and loving each other, versus just, I'm confused why you're doing this. I'm confused why you're complaining about it. I want you to get away. Well, I don't, all of that stuff. I think it's rooted in just lack of clarity and lack of effective communication. And that's what I think an I am mind map can help, is bring that clarity and a tool to spark some communication to repair and improve certain relationships.
Well,
Hope
let
that
me
helps.
ask you this is what I see sometimes is I don't even know what I need to have changed or what needs to change. I just know it needs to change.
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing that if I did an I am mind map, I would
Mm-hmm.
begin to discern, okay, what really needs to change is I need to stop taking care or enabling this behavior because I
Yeah.
don't agree with it. And
Right.
I'm in control of that. But until I get down to my values and what it is that I really want, I'm as lost as you are. We're
Pretty
we're
much.
fighting a battle that we don't even know how to fight because we don't even know what we really want.
Pretty much. It's like being playing, being a football player. It's like being on the field. You don't know the plays. You barely know the rules. You don't know how to score, but you arguing with each other because they're not performing. And it's like we
Right.
haven't clarified the play called. We don't know where we're at in the game. We don't know, our objective of what we're trying to do together as a couple, as a relationship. We don't have any clue what our team stands for, and we're mad at the results. It doesn't make sense. You know what I mean?
Because the results have just turned up based on this whole, it's almost the iceberg theory, right? Based on all this underneath stuff that we don't even really understand what's going on. I love it that you say talking about the rules. We've got a friend here from England, and he said, so, when they kick the goal, and we're like, well, kind of, but that's a field goal. That's really different from actually doing a touchdown, which is
Right.
not a home run,
Right.
even though we might say that was a home run touch. Our language is so full of sports metaphors that if
Right.
you're from a different country, you're like, I'm totally lost. So
Right.
that's what I see in a lot of these relationships is there is no clarification of my identity. And without clarifying my identity, even though I may be a grown adult and may have children of my own,
Mhm.
without clarifying my identity, when you start to have yours, I might feel threatened.
Yeah, exactly. Feel violated.
Exactly.
You just violated me. You know what I mean? On how? Well, I don't know it. I just feel violated. You know,
But I don't know why this is upsetting to me.
right. I don't know why.
So, what is a simple thing that people who hear this interview could do today? What is something they could do today to begin to unpack this?
Well, outside of, exploring what some of the offerings that I have to help people, a simple thing would just, you can just grab a piece of paper and just put I am in the center of the piece of paper, and just start whatever comes to your mind when you say whatever you want to finish. I am, put it down. 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 And just start putting all of how you identify yourself on a piece of paper. I think that would be a good starting point for anyone, just to really get, what is your thinking, your natural habitual response to that question. I am what? I am what? I am what? I would say
Right.
that would be a very just powerful first step, just to really get clear on all of the words that you use to identify who you are. Would be a very powerful step. And it might be, well, I'm pretty sure it's going to be revealing in some ways, because a lot of those words that you put on your mind map after this exercise will probably have some attached emotion to each one of those words, which will probably give us a good indication on the emotions you are consistently feeling on your life every day, by the words that you're choosing to use to identify who you are. And I would start there. Then there's some other levels of, starting to create some words that connect to emotions that you want to feel, that you can start putting into your vocabulary. Then you can start creating affirmations after that. I am, what's the positive affirmation that you now want to start to identify with, and the emotions you want to start feeling would be the first couple steps. But I try to make it as easy as possible with my book and my online courses, kind of walk people through it. But short of you guys, your audience doing that, that's something that they can do like right this second, is just grab a piece of paper and just start putting on your paper everything that comes to your mind when you say, I am blank. I am blank.
Awesome exercise. How do we find more? Your book, your courses, you online, where do we find you?
I'm at johndiggs.com. Johndiggs.com/IM will have all of my IM programs on there. You can find a roadmap on there. I got 3 levels of IM course that walks people through from the initial phases of like doing what I just suggested to the level 2 courses, where we start to really prioritize what you put on there and start creating some activities and tasks and action items for you to start doing that. Then the level 3 course on there is where we actually walk people through where they can start embodying their I am mind map through recording themselves, talking about their I am mind map that they can use in their meditation and visualization practices. And got a mini course on there that's just an hour long. I also have a 4-week max course and do workshops, do keynotes, and I'm also available for one-on-one coaching for those. I've been doing a lot of that lately. So anyone interested in that could email me at john@johndiggs.com. If you just have any questions about any of this stuff, I'm very passionate about this. I am mind map, but as my story goes, I started creating it in 2009, 2010. I've been using it ever since to love and live my best life. When we pandemic hit us, I decided to start writing books about it. And since the pandemic, I wrote 10 books, became an international best-selling
Oh my
author.
goodness. It's
Yeah,
not like you've been busy since 4 years, 10 books.
10 books, became an international best-selling author. I built an online mind mapping community. This I am mind map has become absolutely clear to me that this is my calling, is to share this message, is to try to touch, move, and inspire people to use this tool to love and live their best life. I'm extremely passionate about it, and I love to talk about it and love to help as many people as possible. So please don't hesitate to reach out. And Tanya, thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to share this. I hope it was valuable. I hope it's useful for your audience.
Oh, it is one of my favorite things. And if you haven't seen a mind map, go to his website and look at a mind map. Because what I like as an ADHD person is it's not confining. You can get a big piece of paper. You can get a small piece of paper. If you don't like that one, rip that one up, put your next little circle in the next one, start over again. So it has a lot of creative freedom. And thank you, John, for taking this not just on the page, but to implementation. That's, we can all think about things, but let's move to the implementation stage. So I
Exactly.
really appreciate you being here today.
You're so awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for tuning into the Faith Over Addiction podcast. Remember, nothing changes until something changes. Today is your day to step out in faith and make a difference. You are a daughter of the King, a woman who can spark incredible ripple effects of hope and healing, not just in your own life, but in your family, your community, and God's kingdom. If this episode encouraged you, bless someone else by sharing it. Send it to a friend who needs a little hope, or post it on Instagram and tag me. I'd love to hear what resonated most with you. And hey, if you're ready to reclaim your God-given identity and create a safe, loving space for yourself and those you care about, let's talk. Book a quick call with me today, and I'd love to hear your story and help you take the next step. Oh, and don't forget to head over to Apple Podcasts, search for Faith Over Addiction, and leave me a review. Your feedback not only makes my day, but helps other women find this podcast and step into freedom too. You are strong, you are loved, and the joy of the Lord is your strength. Nehemiah 8:10. Until next time, keep walking boldly into the life God has for you.